We just came back from Africa. 2 people from here went with me, and we were there for just about 2 weeks. And as I was walking to church this morning, someone said to me, "Are you the replacement pastor here?" And I said, "What is he talking about?" I think he noticed I was a little bit tanned, more than what you are used to. So I said, "I'm happy that I didn't stay for up to 1 month. Otherwise, no one would recognize me." But anyway, it was a wonderful trip. We flew into Nigeria, and then we went to my home almost 2 Saturdays ago. The 2 people who went with me, we went into different places in my home village. They went to the village house where I was raised. You're going to see some of them on Facebook. And then we visited some poor people. Sometimes people don't believe there are poor people in Nigeria because of oil and all that. But it's possible to neglect people in that area, especially also in the United States. Because the United States is very wealthy, it's possible for someone to say, "Oh, there are no poor people." And sometimes our attention may be focused on those people who we may be tempted to forget because of circumstances. So we visited them, and then we installed a water purification system in one of the villages. Sometimes some of the water that people drink over there, you wouldn't want to wash your clothes with them. So we installed a purification system that would serve the entire village. And then the next day, we went to the hospital. Some of you may have seen on Facebook a young girl who was born with a club feet, and the Lemonade girls from McHenry here raised some money, over $4,000 or so, that is going to help do surgery. So we attended the surgery session at the hospital and saw the operation went successful. After about 2 weeks, they're going to remove the cast. In about 3 months, they're going to do the other feet. And I want to thank those children from Lemonade girls and their parents for the support they gave to this young girl. You would have seen pictures of beautiful smiles and happiness from this young girl. You thought we gave her life. It was really, really wonderful. And then we went from there to Cameroon to visit with Deacon Matthew, who was to be ordained on July the 4th. But the bishop of his diocese was called to Rome by the Holy Father. They just made him an archbishop. And once that happens, they give them what they call pallium, which is like a staff of office. So with that conflict in schedule, the bishop moved Deacon Matthew's ordination to August. About 24 of them, maybe 22 or 24 were to be ordained. They're still waiting. Keep them in your prayers. Deacon Matthew sent some of his ordination cards, even though it says July 4th, but it didn't happen yet. At the end of the Mass, you can pick those up as you leave at the exit of the church. Keep him in your prayers until the ordination. He sent greetings to everyone and asked us before we left Cameroon. He said, "Are you coming back in August during the ordination?" And I said emphatically, "No." But we will be praying for him, okay? Very happy to be back. And as we come back, we continue our journey of faith, 15th Sunday of Ordinary Time. And the message is very simple and clear. To be a Christian is to receive a call from God to participate in his life in view of eternal salvation. Any man or any woman that is a Christian has received a call from God to participate in God's life so he or she will go to heaven. Think about it that way. If you take that home today, you're fine. God is always and constantly calling people to participate in his life. Therefore, the life of heaven does not begin when I die. It begins with what I do every single day in this world, collaborating with God on my call so that one day I will eternally be with him in heaven. In the gospel reading, we notice how he makes the call. 12 of them, he said to the apostles, "Come." And then following the call is a mission. When he calls, he sends people out. So somebody says, "I've heard the call of God." Okay, what did he send you to do? Think about it this Sunday. Have you received the call of God? What did he send you to do? With the call comes the mission, sending out. We notice in the first reading from the book of Amos in the Old Testament how God called Amos. He was a shepherd taking care of sheep in the farm, and then God called him and changed the direction and asked him to go to Bethel and preach the good news of God's life and God's love. When he went to preach the good news, everybody did not accept it. a reminder and an indication for each one of us that once you make effort, even though imperfectly, to do God's will, it's not everyone who will agree with you. Maybe you already know that. Amaziah, who was the priest in Bethel, said to Amos, "Take it away from here. We don't want to hear from you." Have you ever heard people who reject the gospel, the good news? Take it away from here. We don't want to hear you. Go to somewhere else and preach it to them. We don't want to hear it here. Now, sometimes you may be feeling tempted to fight back if somebody rejects the good news of the gospel. Sometimes I feel the temptation to fight back. That's not what God asked us to do. In the gospel reading, when he sent out the 12, he said, anyone who rejects you, don't fight. Simply shake the dust on your feet as a testimony and go away in peace. We are sons and daughters of peace. We are not sent to fight. We are sent to love people, to forgive them, to give them a second chance. That is who we are. From the Old Testament, he's been calling our father Abraham, Moses, all the prophet. And he brought the fulfillment of the calling in the gospel reading. And that calling is not just for the 12. Yes, the 12 apostles are the foundation of the people he called. But nonetheless, the call is for every single one of us gathered here in this church today. Sometimes when we talk about calling, some people may think, well, that is for priests and bishops and deacons and religious. In a way, it is. But that's not the end of the story. We are called in three ways. Number one, he calls us to the priesthood, diaconate, or religious life. Every Catholic young man should, at a certain point, think about being a priest. Even if you don't end up being a priest, it's okay, but think about it. Every Catholic young lady should, at a certain point, think about being a religious. Maybe you're not going to end up being one, but think about it. Is God calling you to be a reverend sister or a reverend father? Think about it. What about a deacon? Even though you may be married, can God be calling someone to be a deacon? Think. That is a call. Another form of call is those that the Lord has called to be married people. Your wife, your husband. If you put it in God's hand, it's not an accident. God knew there was going to be someone like you that would be able to handle that man and that woman. Oh, yeah. That's true. That's why he put him in your life. That is why he put her in your life. It's not an accident. But it's not just about being priest or being married. There are other people I talk to. Have you ever married? They said, no. Why? No one has ever asked me, and I never asked anyone. And maybe that is a vocation to single life. Single life. Priesthood, marriage, single life. We get it from the word vocare. There is a Latin word saying vocare, meaning to call. That is where we get the word vocation. And vocation is different from profession. Profession is I study a certain thing in school, and I graduate, and I have a degree, and I work under what I study. Vocation is an invitation from God to allow my life to be a participation in God's life, so I will be with him eternally in heaven. And the priesthood, marriage, single life, those are all vocation. That is a call from God for you and me to participate in God's life, in the present life, so I can be with him eternally in heaven. Therefore, the question on the 15th Sunday of ordinary time for me and for everyone gathered here is, how well my priesthood? How well your marriage? How does your single life help you to participate in God's life now? How will it help you to go to heaven? How will your marriage help you to go to heaven? We live in a world of constant change, a world that is constantly trying to redefine how priests should be. They give them new ways to behave and new ways to act, expectation from the world and from the media. We live in a world that is constantly trying to redefine marriage and change it from the way God intended. And there is no man, there is no woman who says, I don't know how God intended marriage to be. It is written within us with common sense and also written in the Bible. When politicians politicize and try to redefine and change it from the way God intended, Christian men and women are not supposed to be part of it. Christian men and women are not supposed to be part of it. We are sons and daughters of God. We respect everyone. We love them. We don't fight. We shake the dust from our feet in peace. But we keep marriage the way God intended. It doesn't matter what people redefine. It doesn't matter what the law of the land and the law of the world says. We cannot make the law of the world more than God's law. Bottom line. Okay? Marriage is a vocation. So I will go to heaven. So is single life. You're going to watch on the news, on the television, and on the media and see what people are doing with single life. How will your single life help you to participate in God's life now? How will it help you to go to heaven? If I don't go to heaven, my life is wasted. It doesn't matter what I have in this world. It doesn't matter what I think I am. Heaven is the final destination for every man and woman of God. And I like the way Pope Francis is doing it. He just went to Paraguay, where people are very, very poor. Maybe you've listened to it in the news. He paid attention to the poor. He paid attention to those who are needy. And we have them in our families, your families. Maybe physically, materially poor. Some are poor in spirit. We need to pay attention. That is why when he sent out the apostles in today's gospel reading, they paid attention to the weak, to the sick, to those who did not have the necessary things of life. Maybe that is how God is calling each one of us, to pay attention and participate in his life in this world by being agent of love and compassion for that man, that woman in your life, even though he or she may not be perfect. Agent of God's love and forgiveness. Being God for one another in this world. Being God for the poor. Being God for the sick in the hope of eternal life in heaven. Have you thought about your vocation? Have you thought about your marriage as a call from God? And my priesthood and single life? That is what this Sunday offers. God's invitation for each one of us to participate in his life right here in this world, so that one day we will be eternally with him in heaven.